How y'all doing? Good. Yeah. There's supposed to be something going on today.
Yeah. You must be. Did you get any pie?
Did what?
Did you get any pie?
Sure.
Good. Everybody asked where you were, and I said, the man's having pie. Give him a couple of minutes.
That's right. I had a cobbler in there, and there was a little ice cream, and a little salad, a little soup, a little salmon.
Beautiful.
Outside of that, didn't have anything.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your patience. For a lot of patience, the last year and a half. 45 minutes ago, we had an event down on 18T with members of the professional media. This event is not going to resemble that at all. I am not a member of the professional media. I'm Dave Short. I'm the Senior Vice President here at Reynolds. I had the good fortune to do this event back in Jupiter, back in 2002. And so it's a great privilege to introduce Jack and bring him back. It falls to me to introduce him. It's really kind of an absurd task when you think about it. Truly a guy that needs no introduction. And everybody's familiar with his astonishing playing career, so we're certainly not going to spend a lot of energy on that. But Nicklaus Design now is over 400 courses worldwide, 300 of which, like this, are signature courses that Jack has done. Jack has the father of 5 great kids and 22 now grandkids. It's a lot.
Yeah, the youngest one is 8.
Wow. And is married to somebody you'll get to meet in a few minutes, one of the all-time greats, Barbara Nicklaus.
I'll go for that.
Yeah. In addition to that, one other interesting tidbit about Jack is that he is one of only maybe a half dozen people in the last 80 years who was not strapped to a sousaphone, but who dotted the I at the Ohio State football game. Right?
Yeah, I think about a half a dozen. Yeah.
About a half a dozen. John Glenn, Woody Hayes.
Bob Hope was first.
Bob Hope was first, yeah.
Bob Hope and John Glenn and Woody Hayes. And, John Glenn was after I was.
Yeah.
And John Glenn was the last one, did it?
I think he was.
And a couple others.
Today there's a couple of thank yous I want to do first. Obviously, you guys, you know, you've been patient with us on the golf course for the last year and a half. Had the good fortune to play it yesterday. I can tell you the wait is you will find it to have been worth it.
You got out there before they did?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. Oh, you teed that up perfect.
I thought we were in this thing together. Yes, I did. I got out there before you did. Yesterday we had some
you
members.
had to make sure it was okay for him, right?
Yes, I did.
If it wasn't, then you would have said, you can't play yet. He's going to make sure we do more.
I did the advance work for you, so you're welcome for that. But thank you for your patience.
Is that better?
We really appreciate that. Certainly want to thank the members of our team here on the ground, Brandon Hayes and Lane Singleton. Chad Getz from Nicklaus Design. Where is he? Somewhere around. He's over there. Our good friends at Heritage Links, the contractors that did the work for us. So certainly those folks are worthy of some praise and attention, and thank you. Jack, I wanted to start with real quick about the golf course. You know, I think that 27 years ago, you built this golf course. A lot of the folks in this room have enjoyed this golf course for 27 years. A lot of the folks in this room are going to enjoy the golf course for another 27. So I heard an interesting anecdote about you at Muirfield doing a survey of your members where you said, tell me what your favorite holes are. And 14 holes came back as favorites, and you immediately went to work on the other 4.
Absolutely. Yeah. I went into Muirfield. Well, that was the first year. Yeah, that's right, exactly. 14 holes. 14 holes that different 4. They did not mention 4 holes, so those are the 4 holes I went to work on. But I was also at Muirfield about 2-3 weeks ago, and we've got a horrible planning problem. You know, just upper Midwest, you always get that. It's been, I don't know, 25 years or so since we've done anything on the greens. And so I came back, I said, you know, I think we just put up with the substructure on these greens and let's just regrass them, and then we don't put the thing out of play. We don't do anything, for 6 weeks. And the superintendent says, no, Jack. He said, we're going to redo the greens. He says, I want to really go down and redo the substructure. You know the mix is not very good. I said, I know that, but I said, I'm willing to live with that. He said, well, if I'm going to redo the greens, I want to redo the fairways. And we're about due for an irrigation system. And he says, the bunkers all need to be redone. I went in there with thinking I might spend a couple $100,000. I walked out spending $8 million. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to shut the golf course. We're going to shut the golf course down next year. Yeah. See, we're going to plan ahead, though, Dave. We're going to shut it down July 10th, and we'll be done August 15th. We're going to do everything in 6 weeks.
Wow.
All of what I just described to you.
Seems to be some challenges from the crowd on that.
You all could have done that too,
That's encouraging to hear.
I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll probably have about 4 crews on that golf course, and they'll each have their own specific thing. And we can do that if we do that way. But I mean, I'm sitting there and says, guys, I don't want to shut this golf course down. I says, I hate shutting the golf course down for a membership. He says, it's only going to be from July 4th. We'll have it all grassed out by the middle of August.
Wow, that's fast.
I said, come on. I says, yeah, no, we'll get it done. I said, okay. Good luck.
A lot of people may not know this, but your design career, really, I think it goes back to 1966. You started looking for the land for Muirfield, right?
Yeah. Well, I started when I went to Pete Dye called me. Pete had been a friend of mine for a long time, and he was just getting started. I played Pete in the semifinals of the Trans-Smiths when I was 18. I guess Pete was probably, Pete's 95 now maybe. So Pete was probably 34 or 5 years old. Anyway, we played there, and I'd known Pete. We played a lot of golf together. And so he said, Jack, I want you to come out and see what I'm doing out here at the golf club for Fred Jones. And I said, what do you want me to see? I said, I want your opinion. I said, Pete, I don't know anything about golf courses. I said, just play them. He said, no, I said, you know more than you think. So I went out, and we went out, and he said, this is going to be the first hole. And all I could see, this little, it was down the hill, back up, and I could see what was there. That was pretty simple. Then he really threw a bit of a monkey and a wrench, and whatever you call it. The second hole was over the top of this ridge with a bunker on it, and it disappeared. I said, well, what's that? He said, oh, it's a takeoff of a hole at Prestwick. I'd never been to Prestwick. I said, oh, boy. So this is going to be fun. We got to the third hole, and it was a round green with 4 round bunkers. And he said, what do you think? I said, it's pretty ugly. He said, see, you do know something. He said, what would you do? I said, Pete, I don't know it. No, come on, what would you do? Well, anyway, I made a suggestion of what to do, and he did it. He did it on 3 or 4 holes on this golf course. And that is what got me interested. Pete, after he did the golf course, he came back to me and he says, that was fun. I said, Pete, I really enjoyed that. That was great fun. He says, would you consult with me on some future golf courses? I said, Pete, I'd love to. I had a blast just one day. And so about 2 years later, Charles Fraser from Sea Pines called Martin McCormick, and he said, do you have anybody up there that's doing a golf course? And he says, I want to have somebody with a name that somebody would recognize, and we put on this new golf course called Harbor Town that we're going to do. And he says, well, Jack would love to get involved in some of that. He says, he's been talking about it. And I said, so I met with Charles Fraser, and he says, okay. He says, I said, Charles, I have no ability to do a golf course. I wouldn't have a clue where to start. And he says, I got a guy who wants me to consult, a guy named Pete Dye. He says, oh, I've never heard of him. Well, at those times, Pete had only done 1 or 2 golf courses. And Pete was a young guy, too. So anyway, we did Harbor Town. I made 28 visits into Harbor Town.
Wow.
And we had a $40,000 fee, which we put back into the golf course, and I never got reimbursed for 1 dime of 28 trips. But it was the greatest experience I ever had. Pete's wonderful. I love Pete. I always loved Pete. And Alice was terrific, and we went in, did the golf course. About halfway through it, he says, I just talked to the PGA Tour. He says, we're going to have the Heritage Golf Classic here this fall. Oh, really? Yeah, we had a 6,600-yard golf course, and we're about halfway done with it. He's going to have a tournament on it on Thanksgiving. We did.
That's right. It was in the fall back then.
We
yeah.
did. Arnold won the tournament, and that's been there ever since then.
Yeah.
And it's been great fun.
And it's held up. It's held up well. It's still 67.
It's not very long.
yards.
60.
Yeah.
It may have added 100, maybe 68, something like that.
It's a cozy little golf course.
It's a nice golf course. It's a fun golf course. Shows you don't have to have a real long golf course to challenge the guys and to make it fun and everything else.
So can we, let's stay on the architecture theme for a second. A lot of people don't know this. Those who have played with me know this, but together you and I combined have won 18 majors over the last 45 years.
I did know that.
You did know that.
I did know that. Yeah, I did.
So
I don't know what's so funny about that.
18 is 18, right?
That's right. Exactly.
But I would look at a beautiful hole with a creek running up the center of it, and I would say, gee, that's a beautiful hole as a player. And I think as an architect, you would look at that and say, that's a beautiful hole, provided that the creek is coming in and entering the field of play in the right place, and is then getting out of the way in the right place. So you would look at that probably with a different set of eyes now as an architect.
Can I take you along the next trip?
Sure, I'd be happy to go. Yeah, I'd be happy to go. We get in and out of Muirfield in 45 days. I heard, right?
Yeah.
But going back to the start, when Charles McDonald did National Golf Club in 1911, I think. He was a Chicago guy, but he went to St. Andrews and he spent several years over there. And he came back, he did National Golf Club, and he was smart enough not to replicate those holes. There's similarities, but he didn't replicate anything.
Got a lot of features.
Got a lot of features. And then right behind him, you have Hugh Wilson and George Crump and guys like that, the first great wave of American golf architecture. Clearly inspired and informed by what he saw over there. Do you have holes that, from either your playing days, that inspire you still today when you design?
Well, the way I look at golf course design is there's nothing new in golf course design. It's what you've seen and what your experience is, and how you, when you see a piece of land, how you can apply it to it. I don't think there's any hole out on this golf course that I've seen anywhere else. Now, have I seen features of it and ideas of it? Sure. I think if I go through the golf course a little bit, let's see. Number one, there really isn't anything unusual about number one, but I mean it's similar. You got a couple of bunkers out there. You got a little bunker to the right side of the green, and you put it in there. And number two, just we put water on the low side, which generally speaking, it stays better on the low side. Hello. And fit the piece of ground there. I'm trying to get to a place where it really makes a difference. Three, just what the land fed us, and I just thought a couple of bunkers out there to direct around it would fit in there fine. And four, that had a little creek bed down there because we didn't spend a lot of money on it to start with, and it was kind of awkward, but I think we've cleaned it up. I think you're really going to like four now.
Yeah,
Four is
great.
really pretty. Five was there was your creek down the fairway sort of. We had the creek bed going down there, and I said, 13th at Augusta, yeah, there was an idea of that. There was a philosophy. You play across and back across. There's nothing new in that. It's just how do you apply it, and how do you make it fit, and how do you make it work. And that's basically how I do golf courses. Years ago, I did an outing, and I won't name the place because I don't think it's fair. But I did an outing, and there were, I did a clinic in the morning. I didn't play golf. I don't remember why I didn't play, but I didn't. But 10 other pros came in and played the golf course. And it was a beautiful golf course, a beautiful setting, immaculate. Clubhouse sit on top of a hill, viewed out over a lake and a bunch of big trees. And it was very, very pretty. They had great combinations, great food in the clubhouse. And every amateur walked in after the round and said, man, that absolutely is the best golf course I've ever played. That's the best day I've ever spent on a golf course. He says, that was just fantastic. All 10 pros walked in. That may be the worst golf course I've ever played. Now, what did that really mean? It meant that to me, that's what it meant, is the average golfer really doesn't care all that much about what the golf shots are. He's really interested in camaraderie, enjoying the day with their friends, being someplace that's pretty, and just someplace that's well maintained and being taken care of. They really enjoy that. Now the pro, the good players, they really are interested in the shot values and the shots that you have to play and the strategy and how the game strategically is played. So my I said, well, that's pretty simple. I said, if I can make a golf course aesthetically pleasing and put good golf shots in it, I probably got a pretty good chance of making a good golf course. And that's been basically my philosophy ever since. And so, I mean, you take this property here, we didn't have any views here.
Didn't give you much to work with.
There's nothing pretty about this place. We just had to create a lake.
Yeah.
So obviously you had the beautiful views. You had great trees. I got beautiful rolling terrain. And I just took that and did a golf course. So I put golf shots up. And then you end up with something that should be pleasing to most people.
You know, last January, we were on the back tee at 18, cold that day.
How was it?
And we were, I think we got to that hole, and I think you had said, this is a really good hole. There's not a lot of work to do. And you asked Lane Singleton, who many of you know, our superintendent, who is a prodigious, hits the ball prodigious lengths. Jack said, what are the college kids hitting into 18 now? And Lane said, 5-iron, 6-iron. And then I said, well, Lane, hang on a second. You made a 2 here last year. What'd you hit in? And he said, well, I hit 7-iron in. And Jack turned around and said, you made a 2 here with a 7-iron. And Lane said, oh, shucks, yes, I did. And then you said, well, I'm not sure what we're going to do, but we're going to make damn sure that never happens again. So.
That's a pretty good line. I don't remember it, but that's a good line.
It was a solid line. It was a solid line. And there was talk of simply shaving the fairway down on the left, so if somebody got greedy and turned it over, it would run out into the lake. But what we've ended up with is a couple of bunkers on the right-hand side that have really brought the landing area in. And I was thinking yesterday, as I played in my job as an advanced scout for all of you, I was thinking yesterday, there's Himalaya, there's Hell Bunker, there's the church pews. So I think we're going to call those, until the marketing folks give me a better one, we're going to call those Singleton's Twins, right?
Sink or swim?
Singleton's Twins, after our good friend Lane Singleton.
Oh, okay,
but we brought that in. Tell us about what you were thinking there. What was the thought on 18?
Well, 18 was pretty open. There really wasn't much happening out there. It felt like, I'd had it originally, and I just wanted it to be a pretty open tee shot and not really have to do a whole lot. But from there on, you got to play. You got to play a pretty good second shot and lay it up. Or if you really could, if you hit as far as Lane does, you could hit it out there and play it too. But I didn't think the green accepted the ball really well. And so things I wanted to do is define the tee shot a little bit more. And if you hit the ball a normal member's length, you don't really reach those bunkers.
Right.
You're still going to be a little short of them. If you hit the ball long, then those bunkers start to come into play. Fairway starts to pinch in, so you have to be a little bit more precise. The green, I pitched it up a little bit in the back, and I tried to get it not to pitch away from over the water, because I've been told that the ball gets on that green and it gets into the back part of the green pretty quickly. So we tried to take that down, take it pretty flat. I didn't want to pitch it back too much to the water, because then you get the guys playing wedges in there and spinning it back over the top of the seawall, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Really didn't do much else to the hole. Actually, probably did less there than we did anyplace else.
Anyplace else, yeah.
But try to redefine the shots a little bit.
Yeah. Number 8, the par 3.
Number 8, I just never liked the hole that I did to start with.
Appreciate your candor.
I just sometimes you just don't like something, or you couldn't figure out what to do that was better. And I kept looking at it, and I came up with it. It's going to be your long par 3. And so I came up with the idea of putting a little bunker short and then giving it an ability for those who can't hit the ball very far. If they hit it over that bunker, then they get like 20, 25 yards to feed the ball into the green.
Yeah.
We went out there today and threw a few balls over that bunker and fed it right down into the middle of the green. And I thought that's a nice way to play it. It makes a 20-yard wide green 30 or 35 yards wide. And then you just basically adjust your tees to allow for different golfers' levels to be able to play it and to use that strategy. And I've used that on a few holes before, the strategy type thing of that way of feeding the ball. And I like it. I think it's always fun. It always allows somebody who hasn't necessarily hit their best shot, but hits a shot that says, if I do this and I get it over here, I'm going to get some help.
Yeah.
Rather than throwing it the other way.
Yeah.
And so I like that. I think you're going to like that green. Let me know what you think about the left side of it after you play it. Because Chad and I talked
Worked
about
out great
that.
for me yesterday. So
Well, if you get the left side, maybe on the left side, if you carry it about a little more than a third way in the green, you might get the ball going away from you.
yeah.
And I'm not sure that that's what it turned out. I'm not sure that's exactly what I want. But I think it probably will be just fine because I don't think most people are going to throw the ball back into that green at 200 some yards.
Yeah.
And so I think you'll like that hole. It's a 200 probably. What is it from the back, Chad? 233.
233.
It's 233 from the back tee.
Yeah.
Now that 233 will play like about 200
Yeah.
or 205. So that means if you're playing at 165 yards, it'll play like it's 145 yards. Which
We
might be
talk
fun
about
for you.
just for a second, if you could. The debate about technology, not as it relates to hot balls, hot clubs, shortening golf courses, and that kind of thing, because I think your opinions on that are well known. I'd rather look at that, if you could. How does that inform your role as a designer? What changes do you make? It can't just be more length.
No, I don't design for the back tees, for the back tees anymore. I design pretty much for the members' tees and that's where I play now. Actually, I played about 6,000 yards. I play from the next tee up. But I try to design more for the average golfer because that's who's playing the golf course, And I just put the Gorilla tees back where I think the golf ball will force you to put them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of places you don't have the ability. We only have limited ability to go back here if we wanted to. We still got 7,400 yards on the back tees, but and I don't know what the golf course was for. Probably 7,200 before.
7,100, Chad? Lane, is that right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So we got a couple 250 yards maybe more on the golf course, but we didn't really affect the average golfer with that. The golf ball today is, I think it's the biggest bugaboo that we have, and I don't want to preach on it, but there's three things that happen. The game takes too long to play, it's too expensive, and it's too tough. And all those things are contributing to the golf ball, as far as I'm concerned. And if we brought the golf ball back, which I think the golf ball will come back. I think they've only been studying it now for 44 years. and no, 42 years, excuse me, 1977 is when I first went to them. And but I think they'll bring it back. I don't know how much they'll bring it back. 10, 12% I think they will. And I think when they do that, I think it'll be fine because then you start playing the tees that really you should play and it'll allow you to create as much variety out here as you want. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you wanted to play this golf course and play it at 7,000 yards for a tournament and so forth, you could play the 18th hole all the way back or you could play it forward or you could play 8 forward or back. I mean, you've got the variety to move it around to play whatever you want to play. And I think that's most good golf courses, or most property don't have that ability. You stand back and you have your right foot in the swamp behind you. But I think a golf course that is balanced can have 500 yards available, but play at 7,000 yards, it plays very nicely. And it's the same thing as a forward team. If you got 6,500 yards available, you want to play at 61 or 200 yards, you can do that, but moving the tees around. And so I think they eventually will bring the golf ball back. I thought for sure it was going to happen last year, and I said for sure it's going to happen this fall of this year. It hasn't happened yet, but yeah, both the RNA and the USGA say that they're doing it. And they said as soon as we get done, gather enough information and studying the issue. go to
We'll
sleep.
be
on
into
it.
year 45.
Huh?
We'll be into year 45
Yeah,
pretty soon.
that's right.
You know, it's interesting. In 2002, I went out late one afternoon, and you and I think it was Greg Lecce were in the bunker on 15.
Here?
No, Jupiter. The short par 5 Jupiter course, late in the day. And he's in the bunker, covered up in sand, along with Greg. And you looked really, really comfortable and happy and relaxed. And I see you come here, and
14.
14 is the short par 4.
No.
The really
15.
steep bunker that I couldn't get out.
16, 15 is short par 4.
15, maybe it was 15. But I saw you on the course there, and I've seen you come here now 3 or 4 times where you come through, and of course there's appropriate handshakes to do and everything else. But when you get on the golf course, you seem still very inspired, very energized, and really seem to enjoy what you're doing still
enjoy
today.
it.
What's the inspiration for you every day that keeps you so excited out there?
All these folks out here, they're going to come out and say, look at what that guy did to me. I get enough of that. I don't need it anymore. I want to try to, you gave me another bite at the apple. I want to be sure we get it right this time. You know, I think we've, most of the work today is actually redesign.
Yeah.
And it's really sort of, you come back and you get another shot to see a golf course, how it plays, and get the ideas from the members of what they thought and what they want. If you got a bad hole, you can fix it. You know, you have all those kind of things. And I think that you didn't have any bad holes here. You had 8 maybe. And, but I think you've got 18 beautiful. I think you're going to love 9 now.
Yeah.
9, you stand on the tee, you can see the water. Tells you what to do. You've got room to hit it to the right or feed it around the bunkers or hit it over the bunkers. You've got a little bit of space behind the green. If you want to bail out, you have a little demanding chip or a putt, but you can play it.
Yeah.
And I think that 11 is just dramatically changed.
Yeah. Beautiful.
You now can see the water, which you could never see the water before on the tee. You got a lot of different little nuances of how to play and where to go, which would be fun. The same thing comes at 13. Mm-hmm. The green's back to the water now, and you can and we've cut the fairway down to where you can stand on the tee and see what's in front of you. Those are the kind of things that, when you first do a golf course, you probably don't do all that because each time you do that, you start spending money, and you start saying, well, we spent enough money here, let's just don't spend any more than we have to. And then when you come back a second time, you got little things, those become little things, and you can do them. And sometimes you miss them the first time too.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun. I'm very energized to come back to any golf course that I've been involved with, and giving me the opportunity to make it more pleasant for the memberships.
I'm going to ask you, I feel like I would be remiss in not asking at least one question about your playing career. And
That was a long time ago.
it wasn't that long ago. Let's take it all the way back then to, it actually you didn't win this one. This was not a tournament that you won. This was
I forgot about it then.
I know you haven't. Your memory's legendary. 1960 at Cherry Hills U.S. Open. And back then, the final round was 36 in one day,
Yeah.
right? And you played with Ben Hogan, who hit 34 of 36 greens, I think, which wasn't that unusual for him.
And the previous 18.
Yeah, and at the end of the event, which I think you finished 2 shots behind Arnie,
That's right.
and Hogan said, I played with a kid who would have won this thing by 10 if he knew how to win.
I didn't quite say it that way. He said, no, very close to that. He said, I played with a young man today, if he'd have known how to win, would have won this tournament by several strokes. Meaning I was 20 years old, and I really didn't know how to win. I gave it away in the last 9 holes. And I shot 39 in the last 9 holes. As a matter of fact, I shot 3 over the last 6 holes. And
So you do remember.
I remember a little. What would you like to know? But I remember the 2-iron I hit into 12, and I made 2. And then I 3-putted from 12 feet at 13. I 3-putted from 30 feet at 14. Got up and down from over the green at 15. Missed a 3-footer from 30 at 16. Missed about a 12-footer at 17. And 18 I hit on the right fringe, and I didn't get up and down. And I lied. And I told Palmer, who won the tournament, I said, Arnold, I said, if I hadn't shot 39 last night, nobody would have ever heard of you. And of course, his answer to me is, if I hadn't three-putted 9 times, nobody ever heard of you either. So anyway, we had a lot of fun with that through the years. But
So what, do you mind if I ask what?
no, sure.
What adjustments did you make? I mean, was it
Well, I think
mechanical?
that-
Was it approach?
No. I think that's that's what you learn. In other words, back then, if I understood that everybody else was having as much trouble finishing that tournament as I would, I might have played a little bit differently. I was nervous. I mean, I had the 13th hole. I hit my first putt. I had a 12-footer uphill, hit it about that far by the hole, and I had a ball mark between my ball and the hole, and I didn't have the presence. I knew I could fix it, but it wasn't my ball mark, and I was so nervous I didn't have the presence to ask somebody. And I went ahead and putted it. The ball mark threw the ball off, and I missed that little putt. And I had. I realized you didn't have to, you didn't have to blitz the golf course to win. You just had to play solid and smart. You got. You asked me a question. I had an answer and I forgot it. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Let's see. What the devil? Shot 32 the front 9, and. But I was in really good shape, and the 10 apart from the fringe 11 was I hit it over the green in par 5, didn't get it up and down, and birdied 12. I walked off the 12th green, and there was a leaderboard. It said Nicklaus 5, Palmer, Suchek, Hogan, Kroll, Cherry, all 4 under. Fleck was under too. Mm-hmm. They were all one shot behind me at that time. So I sort of managed to 3-putt the next 2 greens. But that's what a kid does. You don't keep the presence, and you realize that even though those guys are 4 under par, they're having as much problem finishing as you are. And so it just takes time. It takes time to learn. It takes time to understand. You learn every time you get yourself in that position. I mean, I had in 1963, I'm playing the British Open. And I had a 2-shot lead on 3 holes to play on Phil Rogers and Bob Charles. And anyway, I parred 16. They were group behind me. I played 17, and I hit my tee shot at 17, and I had 202 yards to the hole, and the pin was the back part of the green. And I turned to my caddy. I said, Jimmy, I need to hit 3 iron to get back, or 2 iron to get it back to the hole into the wind. And he says, you don't need to get it back to the hole. And I said, oh yeah. I said, I need to get back. If I was still a young kid, and I hit 2 iron, hit it just over the green, and didn't get it up and down, all I had to do was hit it somewhere on the green, and make my 4. And then the 18th hole I hit driver, which I've played a hole 1,000 times since and never hit driver again. And you learn from that. I watched Bob Charles and Rogers. I stood on the 18th tee while they played 16, and it was downwind and I couldn't hear it. They both hold 20-foot putts, so I thought they parred the hole because there wasn't any noise from the gallery. They didn't have any leaderboards in those days. And so, all those things you learn, and you learn from them, and you learn how to play. I got all the young kids come to me today. I'm very blessed to have a lot of young guys who think that, how many 22-year-olds come to a 79-year-old for advice? Not many, right? And I got all these young kids coming to me, and I'm sitting there and saying, man, is that flattering or not? And they actually listen to me. And I try to impart the experience. And I said, you've got to play within yourself. You've got to play, you don't try to do something you can't do coming down the stretch. You got to play smart. You got to understand, as I said, other people are having the same problems you're having, and you do that. And over time, the experience tells you that this is what you need to do. I mean, I go through I look at Tiger's career, and Tiger really didn't have a lot of great players through most of his winnings, and he had Nicholson, and he had Ernie Els and VJ, and that's about what he had when he was playing, but he would look up at the leaderboard, and he would say, as much like I did in my later years, or after I got going, I'd look at the leaderboard, and he'd see Smith, Jones, whatever it was, Potter, and he'd look at the leaderboard and says, huh, I just make pars and I'm going to win. And he did, and they'd fall on their face, and he'd win the golf tournament. And if I saw Palmer, Player, Trevino, Watson on the leaderboard, I said, I better play. You sort of adjust your play by who your competition is, and how you play against them, and how you think you need to play to do what they would do. And you know that they're smart enough that they're not going to beat themselves.
Right.
The whole idea is don't beat yourself. And if you don't beat yourself, you're going to win a lot of golf tournaments. I got beat a few times. That's why I got 19 seconds in majors, because I did do that, and I got beat a few times. And sometimes not by the guys I was looking at. But if you always put yourself in a position to win, or put yourself in a position not to beat yourself, you're gonna win a lot of tournaments. And that's my philosophy.
Well, I'd say you figured it out.
Well, I didn't figure it out enough. I did too many seconds.
Yeah, you and I together have 19
Yeah.
seconds.
9 seconds. Did we really? 19 seconds together? I'll be darned.
Also there in 1960 was Dan Jenkins.
Jakey was there, yeah.
And Dan Jenkins passed in March of this year.
Yep.
And I know you and Barbara and Scott are heading to Colonial tonight for an event out there.
For dinner honoring Jenkins.
Yeah, and so we're gonna get you on your way after a little bit more business real quick. July 4th, we tend to get a bottleneck here, so if you guys would indulge us and linger longer at the bar just for a moment when we're done, so that we do need to get Jack and Barbara onto Colonial tonight for an event. One other piece of business, and I'd like to bring, if Barbara is available, I'd sure like to bring her up so that you guys can meet her. She's terrific, and we've got to handle one more piece of business if we can. Come on up. Yeah, sure.
Hello.
I'm going to give you that for a second. Earlier this year, actually about a month ago, we had the Reynolds Cup, which has become a pretty cool event that we do. Some of our members who either still are corporate titans or once were corporate titans participate in that event, and we have a lot of companies that come out. And this year we thought that we would spin off a little bit of that money to Nicklaus Children's Health Foundation. And so I've asked Barbara here. Oh, I'm all right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm better this way anyway. I'm going to let you handle it, but from what I know, it started back in 2004, and in the last 17, 18 years, $100 million have been raised. There are now 600 physicians. There are 47 outpatient centers throughout South Florida. It's the largest pediatric hospital system now in South Florida and getting larger every day, and that's largely due to your original endowment and the hard work since that time. So if I got any of that wrong, please correct me, but it's close to right, isn't it?
It's pretty close to right. I think our outpatient centers are 16 in Florida.
Okay.
But thank you so much. I mean, when Dave told us that you were donating some of the money to our foundation, Jack and I are so passionate about helping children. And of course, probably those of you who know us have heard this story 1,000 times. But when our daughter was 11 months old, she started choking. By the time I'd get her to the doctor, she'd be fine. Or at that time, he would come to the house, she'd be fine. Finally, he said, Barbara and Jack, there is something wrong with this child. So they found a shadow and did a bronchoscopy, found she had inhaled blue crayon. So of course it wasn't going anywhere, and when it got lodged, she would choke. So in the process of removing that, they dropped a piece in her lung. She went in pneumonia, and she was in an oxygen tent and ICU for 6 days. And Jack and I, as young parents, are sitting there, and we looked at each other and we said, if we're ever in a position to help anyone, we want it to be children. So we had the opportunity to start our foundation in 2004, and we had lost a grandchild, and you say some good comes out of all bad. So to keep Jake's legacy alive, we started our foundation and had the good fortune to partner with Miami Children's Hospital, which is now Nicklaus Children's Hospital, and just finished a 189-bed acute care pavilion. And I call our doctors angel doctors. They love what they do, and inoperable, for the most part, is not in their vocabulary. So what you are doing with this donation just touches both Jack and me, because we're just so passionate about helping children. And he, of course, didn't really have a lot of time when he was playing golf, but he kind of watched and he loved what we were all doing. Well, now that he's got a little more time, he has jumped right in, and I tease him. I said I've had to raise his salary 3 times this year. But he
1, 2, 3.
0 to double 0 to triple 0. But he has jumped right in, and he has fallen in love with these babies. And I know he gets tears in his eyes every time he talks about one of his favorite little twins that they saved her life at Nicklaus Children's. So we love it. We love what we're doing. And, I think God said a baby is God's reason for the world to go on. And I think that's how we feel. So thank you so much for sharing our passion. And it was really good news.
So we had a check that was $11,250, and I was with our ownership group yesterday from Daniel and from MetLife, who I neglected to thank at the outset, which puts me in professional peril. So I'm going to backtrack and get that done now. But when we were in the meeting yesterday, we thought 11,250 was a really strange number, and then we found out that Barbara was coming, and we thought, well, that's twice as nice. So why don't we just double that thing up? So we doubled it up, and then we thought, well, it's still kind of a weird number. Let's just round it up to 25. So we've got an old check, which probably won't fit in the overhead bin anyway, for $11,250. But we're going to shred that one, and we're going to send one instead for 25, if it's okay with you.
Well, thank you, Dave.
All right?
Thank you. Very kind.
So Team Nicklaus, to my right? Bobby Jones said the first purpose for any golf course is to give pleasure, and pleasure to as many people as possible. And we've had 27 years of pleasure with this golf course, and we're going to see over the next few days and the next few years a whole lot more pleasure. And so I want to thank Team Nicklaus for helping us to get that done and coming back to Great Waters and visit, and hope you guys have a safe journey tonight and have fun in Dallas.
Well, thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Right. Thank you very much.
Isn't it a weird number?
First of all, Dave, I don't think that whether it's 11,000 or 25,000 makes a whole lot of difference. It's just the thought and that the kindness that you've all shown to do that. We appreciate it.
Our pleasure, Jack.
And let me just say that, I've had a wonderful relationship here at Great Waters through the last 27 years, I guess. To come back and to see how many people here have enjoyed the facility, enjoyed living here, being part of what goes on, I'm sorry, it just makes me very happy. So, thank you for having us. Thank you for being part.
You're fine.
I just hope you have 27 more years of great pleasure, and I'm looking forward to coming back in 27 years and doing it again.
Yeah!